So let's start right off with color theory. So if you got your degree in interior design, or you probably had to do a lot of color theory, but it's not something that we use every single day. Like color theory, I feel like, and feel free to share your thoughts, but it's good to know. It definitely gives you a foundation to think about color from, but we don't really go to this color wheel every day.
Correct. Right. Yeah. It's almost kind of an inbred in you a little bit too, for us as designers, I think too. It's like, you know, you've done it and been through it enough times, it just comes natural.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
well, and there are certain colors that are, you know, designed in the color wheel to go together.
Right.
So it's almost a natural thing in a way.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Basically.
It feels a little intuitive even once you learn about the color wheel. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. It does, and it's visually catching either way. So it does. It gives you.
Okay, awesome. Well, we got a color wheel up here, and for those who are watching who've never seen a color wheel before, there's different styles of color wheels. This one's a little different than ones I've seen before, but basically you're just taking colors and putting them around a ring in a certain order, and colors that are directly across from each other, right?
Right.
Tend to go together, right?
Yeah, complementary colors.
And then you've got tertiary colors and secondary colors. Those are all colors that
are mixed.
Go together, and they're mixes of the primary colors, right?
Correct.
All right. Awesome. We're going to come back to color theory in the color wheel in a little bit, but that's the basic concept. Oops, lost it. And then almost everyone, I'm sure, has seen a color deck. If you haven't, if you go to a paint store, they'll give you one of these color decks. There's one right there. Every paint company's got their own version, and the color deck is laid out in a lot of ways similar to a color wheel, and that different pages are representing different primary, secondary colors, and then the hues and tints of those colors.
Hues and tints, which we're going to talk about in a second. Yeah,
we're going to get more into detail on that in a second. But anything else you guys like to add about the color wheel?
It does come useful. They're easy to pick up too, or you can get one online. But it does have some information. This is pocket size, so if you're really interested in, it has you can move it on this one to see what, and it gives you different hues and tones and things like that. So it is helpful to have.
Yeah. You can even, Brianna, you're saying you can go to like ShermanWilliams.com, and they have a digital color wheel there where you can type in any hue from their color deck, any particular color from their deck.
The combinations.
It'll spit out primary and secondary and analogous colors and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Sherwin-Williams does a great job on their website too, with showing you the rooms with the colors in them and trim and all that. So that's a great tool for clients.
Yeah, that sort of visual where you paint the wall, you take a picture and you paint the
there's
wall.
a room already. There's what it comes up with one when you're even looking at a color. There's one certain room in there, and then you can put different colors in that room just to see how that one particular room changes with different colors.
And they also will give you underneath all the colors that blend and match in some of those color wheel theory perspectives, like at the analogous or the triadic. So you can actually see, they don't say that, but it does let you know what coordinates with the colors that you're choosing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like those online tools. My only challenge with them is those colors look a little different on every monitor.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Thank you. Yeah, you have to get the samples, but it does give you a little bit of an idea of where you want to start.
Yeah, it's a good way to get started.
Right.
But if you look at a color on a screen and go, "Oh, I want that," I can almost promise you it won't look.
It's not that.
A lot of times it depends too, like how many windows are in your room. Like, is it facing north or south? Like, it's really important to still get like a sample and paint it on the wall before you commit to a whole color.
Absolutely. Right. And live with it for a couple of days through a sunshiny day, through a cloudy day,
That's right. Yeah, even if you have a tree outside a window, the light coming through that tree is going to skew a little green, right? Or because it's filtering through those leaves. That's going to reflect
color. The nature reflects in it.
Yeah. So anyway, we went down a little bit of rabbit hole there, but
we did. It's good though.
It's easy to do with design, man. We do this every week. we try to do these concise little topics, and then we wind up talking for an hour and a half. Some examples of primary colors used here in the home. Primary colors, very bold, right? you see a lot of primary colors used in things like logos and wraps on vehicles and stuff like that. But using it in a home, we don't use a lot of primary colors on walls. But what do you guys think?
Well, again, it's extolling a mood right there. Like if you see the red, it's very punchy and that kind of thing, and that's an entryway. So and the stairs. So it just, it's what kind of mood you want to, and versus that yellow, actually, the tone of that yellow is very soothing and soft. Yeah. So, I guess it more depends on what shade and tones and things you're gonna.
Right,
Because
that goes to the tint again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The intensity of it, you know.
Correct.
I mean, these were
are kind of intense,
right, and these were done specifically, with clients' needs. Like the middle picture with the bright royal blue wall. That is Pierre there on the wall. That is a peacock print that the client just absolutely loved, had to have in that space. They had 10-foot ceilings, so that intense blue color was really fun with Pierre. It kind of accented him, and the reflections in the mirror, so you can see where the blue was pooled, and the intensity really worked in that space. So it depends on the client and the space.
Even the mirror has got peacock that looking.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so those are your primary colors, which are what? Red, green, and blue.
Correct.
Those are your three primary.
No, red, blue, and yellow. Right.
Oh, sorry, red, blue, and yellow.
Green, yellow, and blue make green.
Right in front of me, and I still get it wrong. Red, blue, and yellow, your primary colors. And then when you mix two of them, you get your secondary colors.
Correct.
Right, so red and blue make green.
Right. And in this case, orange, purple, or green.
Yeah.
Right, so these are your secondary colors.
Right. Yeah.
That you get by mixing
red and blue, purple.
Yeah. So if you hear designers talking about primary and secondary colors, that's where those come from. And then it's not that you are stuck with this lime green as your secondary color. You can change the hue of that with grays and whites, and that's how we get all our different tones, right?
Yep, exactly. Grays, whites, and blacks change the tints and the hues of the colors.
Yeah, so that's what this slide's all about. So you start with a primary color, let's say a blue, that royal blue, that you probably maybe don't want to paint your kitchen royal blue because it's not your color.
Right.
But you alter that by adding white tints, gray tints, and black tints to it.
Correct. So you want a real light baby blue, it's gonna have more white than blue in it.
Right. And if you can, today it seems like what's really popular is putting gray in colors and toning them down.
Well, I've found too in a lot of designing that, those gray scales just make everything just that much softer and easier to flow and coordinate with. So those gray tones really work well, whether it is a darker room or a lighter room, and there's a little bit more consistency in them, I think. The more white colors have, the more intense they are. So that's where that strength comes from, So gray just kind of makes everything very calm in general. So I love a color with a little gray. So
a pastel, would you say that's a primary color with a lot of white? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
And then when we talk about primary colors that have been altered with grays, would you call those muted tones?
Yes.
Common word.
And then maybe with the black, more jewel tones.
There's more intensity in those as well. You can kind of go back. So the gray, again, it's in that middle, which is why I think it works so well for so many situations. Color, but just that little bit of gray just makes it all a little easier on the eye.
Gotcha. So we have clients all the time come in, they have a favorite color. So that it's a jewelry color or maybe it's a car color, but they're usually these bold colors that are difficult really to put in a design in a home. Right. But take that color, add white, add some gray, add some black, and now it's the same color, but now you're toning it down or turning it into something that can work.
Less intensity, more flow,
And then that bright color can be your pop in the design at some point.
Yeah, and then you use the pure colors they really like as little accents. Yeah, I think that's a great practical tip for everybody. So let's talk about another practical tip, how to use a paint deck.
Okay, so right there we have Sherwin-Williams paint deck on there, and we're specifically going to talk about that deck a little bit. So, and I have one here. all Sherwin-Williams numbers of their paint, they have a color and a number, and it starts with an SW. For example, this is SW 7043 Worldly Gray, but at the top of that has a 245 and a 245 C1. It's kind of almost impossible if you're using this deck and somebody tells you, oh, I want to find Worldly Gray. If you just have this deck and you can thumb through it forever. So it's really good to know the 245 number, the 245 C1, and the C1, it goes all the way down to,
5 usually.
Yeah, 5 usually. So, and that goes with the intensity, more whites in here and more blacks down here. So this color will definitely blend with this color too, or look well together too.
That's a monochromatic scheme right there.
Yeah.
Which we haven't talked about yet, but that's a good example.
We haven't gotten there, but if you want a monochromatic scheme,
You follow the deck.
Yeah.
stick to one page on a deck.
Right.
Yeah. Now there is an index in here. So if
Correct.
there's a
So,
color like Jubilee is one of the
Yeah.
color that I love, you can go into the index to find that number, and that'll give you the 3 digits.
Right.
The 3 digits on top, and then you'll have the C. Those are the one that's much easier to find on this deck.
Right, correct. Yes.
Spinning through.
Gotcha. So if my favorite color, let's say, was green, but like my favorite color is emerald green, but I'm not going to paint my living room emerald green
Right.
because all my friends would hate me.
So here,
I could find emerald green and then go up or down the scale and find a toned down version of that.
Exactly.
right, that could be the light color, the color of your wall, for example. And then maybe you want a backsplash or something in the darker tone or something.
Yeah. And then I'd use that emerald green for, little accents. Maybe I've got an emerald green KitchenAid or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Fine.
There you go. I like that. And then the other thing that's great about the decks too is that, as you go through it, you can see where the greens are turning into blues, right?
Mhm.
So if you want a green blue, that if you're, within this, in here, then it just kind of helps kind of figure out which direction you want to go. I'm looking at these and I really like the blues more than the greens. So it just gives you all of them at one time. So you can really kind of find what's appealing.
Start to dial things in.
Hey, Paul, I also want to add something that a lot of people I feel like don't know is that if you find a paint color you love in the paint deck, you can actually go to the paint store but there's not one close to it that's like what you love. They can actually tone down that specific color. So you could tell them, I want this color at like 75%. And that means that they're just putting like 75% of the mix in there. So that also helps tone down colors.
Yeah, that's up.
Mixing our own colors. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
I know a few designers that like to do that with walls and ceilings. They'll take the wall color, ask the paint company to take that formula, cut it in half, and use it for the ceiling color.
Feeling correct, yeah.
Or vice versa. It's a way.
Metallics too. That's a fun.
That reflective quality. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, very good. Good tip. When just on a slightly side note, I know the big box stores are super convenient. I always like to recommend if someone's looking for paint, go to one of the smaller paint stores, like a dedicated paint store, like the Sherwin-Williams or the Benjamin Moores or the Porter Paints, the PPG, because the guys behind those counters are really good with color, right? It's nothing against the 26-year-old college kid behind the counter at Home Depot,
Right.
but that guy behind the counter at the paint store or woman has probably been mixing for years and years and had gotten specific training, and you get a lot of better advice on product and on color from those stores too.
Yeah.
So little pitch for going to your local paint store
Right.
instead of the big box there. All right, so that's some idea about how to use a paint deck. Color, temperature, what's all that about?
So that's the warm versus cool, basically. So your warm tones, yellows, reds, oranges, deep wood tones, versus your cooler colors, which are greens, blues, whites versus blacks.
Blacks, right.
So this is a perfect example that's on there now. You have the deep, warm brown cabinetry in the first pick there with the dark countertops.
Mhm.
Now, there's a little bit of coolness added in the accessories and the backsplash. So you get a little bit nice balance there, whereas the whiter kitchen brings the warmth in with the warm metal tones.
With the top of the rose quartz in there.
That rose quartz kind of brings some warmth into that very white, very cool kitchen. And then the wood floors again
Yeah,
reiterates
yeah.
a little bit of that softness. So it's great to have a nice even combination.
Balance off of each other. Yeah.
Mix the two. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, if that was all white, if that had a stainless steel hood and, you know, with glass,
It would feel
they're
very,
glass
very
doors,
cold. You
it
know.
could feel very cold and
Yeah.
sterile.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. And looking at that particular picture, they're both beautiful kitchens. Okay, so you want to always mix warm and cool a little bit.
I believe so. I mean, there's some people that just, want to go straight on, but again, I think it exudes the feeling of you just feel cold. You don't feel comfortable in that room as much as you would if you have that pop of warmth in that cool room.
It's harmonious.
Yeah.
It's more harmonious.
Right.
It just make, even in the white kitchen, that little bit of orange and a little bit of green, just with the oranges on the table, it offsets it and it brings another element in. So in the cool case, the beauty is the simplicity, and then the warmths just kind of highlight that in a nice way.
Gotcha. Yeah, a little bit of contrast.
Yeah.
We were talking. This was several weeks ago, 5-6 weeks ago, one of our early webinars about kitchen design, and one of the common mistakes we see is people doing everything too monochromatic. It's like gray cabinets, gray countertop, gray backsplash tile, and it just reads, it's flat and kind of uninteresting.
Yeah, there's nothing to focus on as well too. There's just not really a focal point in that. And
but it's hard.
Kind of.
It's real hard for a homeowner to understand the balance, and so that's a really good tip of think of it in warm and cool. And you always want to mix the warm and cool a little bit to give you that variety. You definitely could skew it very far one way or the other, just like in these two pictures, but you always want to bring a little bit of balance in. That's cool.
Right.
All right, color schemes: complementary, split complementary, analogous. Where are we getting these color schemes from?
So we go back to the color wheel really with this. I mean, that's where you can get all the information on the different types of color combinations.
Okay.
So the complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel.
So you have
the red and green.
Red and green, right? Christmas. That's the best way.
Yeah.
Like right now we're actually
dressed
complementary. We are green.
Like you guys.
We are.
Orange and blue, right? Complementary.
And if we're really getting into it, we are orange, blue, and green. So we're analogous as well. Triadic.
Yeah.
That's right. Triadic. Sorry.
So we purposely did that today.
Oh, very nice.
Play with the colors a little. So complementary are opposites on the color wheel, like you said, blue, orange, red, and green. The Christmas colors, they're always a little easier to remember. And then secondary colors would be,
oh, I'm sorry, not secondary, the harmonious colors.
Analogous.
Split complementary.
I'm sorry. I skipped to analogous. Yeah, the split complementary is when a primary color is used with two analogous colors. So meaning a primary color next to two other colors.
So like we have red violet, and red orange. So that also makes a good color
Split
combination.
complementary.
So the three right next to each other on a extra primary color. Okay.